Good morning, guys. Welcome back into the show. Now, we're so excited for our next guest. He's a composer, a producer, a band leader, and the driving force behind some of New York's most iconic swing and jazz events. Patrick Soluri has composed award-winning ballets and operas, performed around the world, but he's just as likely to be found behind the drums with his band, the Hot Toddies, or curating unforgettable nights through his company, Prohibition Productions. From creating the Gotham Jazz Festival to launching the New York Lindy Exchange, Patrick is keeping vintage culture alive and swinging right here in the city. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that is a lot you guys are doing. That's a lot you are up to.
It's a great introduction. I gotta copy that.
Oh, it's everything you're doing, though. It's so wonderful, and so we just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us. And we want to get to everything that you're doing because it is so impressive. But before we get into the present, I want to take it back to the past just a little bit and talk about your roots, because I just want to know if your roots and how you grew up kind of have influenced your musical style. Because you were born in Brazil.
Yes.
You were raised in New York, you spent time in Milan. So how has that international upbringing kind of helped your creativity or your music sense?
Sure.
And
well,
style?
both my parents are visual artists. My dad's a photographer, my mom's a interdisciplinary visual artist. So we kind of grew up in a very creative environment, and I started playing drums as like a kid, like 5 years old. And it was always sort of a fun thing on the side, and I thought I would go into other things, but the music always became a very important part of my life. And and it grew until, you know, I got into college and composing and discovered that whole world, and you know.
And so you found it to be easy right away, like when you picked it up, or was it kind of one of those skills that you had to learn?
It's both. I mean, it's there's like an instinct for it, but at the same time, there's a technical challenge to playing an instrument. And I didn't really do drums seriously until much later, because I decided to go into composing and got really into classical music and orchestration and ballet and opera, and that sort of, I stopped playing drums, and then, you know, almost like 15 years later, decided to pick up the drums again because I missed playing, but I had started producing all these swing dance events as sort of my side job, and it's like, you know, I kind of miss being in that action a little bit and being in the music. So a few years before the pandemic, I got back into playing drums, and sort of then the band started and kind of went from there.
So fun. Yeah, it's a whole little path.
And I have a few questions surrounding that. So can you paint this picture for us? 7 years old, drum set. Is this full drum set, you know, mini drum set? And also, how are your parents reacting to you as a 7-year-old with a drum set in, you know, I don't know where it's located in the house?
I mean, I don't remember exactly how that all went down, but I'm sure it had to do with, you know, watching the Muppets and Animal on drums, and, you know. And but I do remember every week I would take drum lessons at this music school, and it was this like kind of cool little like drum room, and I would go there every week, and then but I didn't have a kit at home. It wasn't until high school that I got a kit, and then that was a challenge. But I actually, during pandemic, I built a drum room in my apartment so I can practice without driving my neighbors crazy. And
wow, like soundproofed it and everything?
Yeah, it's like a big soundproof box with the drums in it, and I have recording 8 channels in it, and air ventilation. I get about 40 decibels of reduction.
Wow.
So it's good pandemic project.
That's
crazy.
Very good pandemic project, yeah. So that way you don't get evicted and everybody's happy, and you can also enjoy your time. I love that. And so you actually ended up going to school for music composition as well. You went to Bennington College, later the Manhattan School of Music. So how did going there kind of shape your artistic vision?
Well, when I started at Bennington, it's a liberal arts school, so I was interested in photography and astronomy and music and all kinds of stuff. So it was a good place to just have like a broad exposure. And then when I was there, I was taking music classes, and I thought I wanted to learn how to write for big band, but there was all this, people were talking about like Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, and I was like, well, what is that? And I went and listened to it, and it completely blew my mind, the orchestration and the rhythmic intensity of it. So I kind of started diving into that world a little bit, and then started taking composition classes, and then within about and then I wrote my first piece, which I self-produced, and then realized I kind of needed to go somewhere a little bit bigger, And that's when I went to Manhattan School of Music, which is a conservatory. It's the old Juilliard building. And then I kind of really got into stuff there. And so I just kind of went down that rabbit hole. Wow. But still always having that sort of drumming percussion background. So it's interesting now that it kind of comes back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what genre was your first piece comprised of?
Composing?
Yeah.
It was actually an orchestral, well, there's some small chamber things like piano and cello and stuff like that. But the first real piece was like an orchestral piece that I sort of, I had to kind of teach myself how to orchestrate and put it together. But then when I went to conservatory, I kind of really dove into orchestration and larger pieces. So I've done, 11 ballet scores around the world and a bunch of operas and, 3 at Carnegie Hall and that kind of stuff,
Wow.
Yeah, well, you're downplaying it. You've done like, I don't know, I've just done Carnegie Hall, all of that, right? You've also performed in Berlin at the Bordeaux, the Kennedy Center as well. Yeah, you're internationally known in this field. And so what drew you specifically to opera and to ballet? Is it telling the story through your music?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a storyteller in music. And I think with both my parents being visual artists, the idea of the visualization of music, like there's that great Balanchine quote about seeing the music and hearing the dance, which is what I always kind of think about, where if you can't see what's on stage, but you listen to the music, it should inform how the story is being told. And you think about film scoring. Yeah. It helps tell you what's going on. I mean, good film scoring, and so I often think about that, and I found it fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. And
challenging, but fascinating.
Oh, I'm sure it's very challenging. And do you find it challenging because when you orchestrate something, you're writing music for instruments that maybe you don't know specifically how to play yourself? How does that process work?
It's a little different for everybody. For me, it became sort of an instinctual thing. It's easier for me to orchestrate for like a full orchestra than it is to write for a piano. And I don't know why I'm not a pianist, but it's just.
It's like you can hear it more so, like when you're writing,
I can hear it and I can feel it, and it's sort of like it's like when you're cooking, it needs a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and you sort of like flush it out.
You blend it together. So fascinating.
That's amazing. And so, what does that process look like? So you're in your living space and you begin to compose something. What does that creative process look like from inception?
Well, probably the ballets are the easiest thing to talk about. Usually there'll be some kind of a commission or project idea. It's either a story, like a concrete story, like, hey, we want to tell this particular story. Like I did a story about, I did a ballet about the story of Madame X. So there's the show at the Met right now, and that was a ballet focused on who was the person that was in the painting of Madame X by John Singer Sargent. And there are these two paintings that were kind of iconic, Dr. Pazzi and Madame X. So the story was revolved around that. So they would give me the story, and then generally have a lot of leeway to kind of figure out how that's told musically. Like you have sort of like an outline of the scene, and then it's kind of building it out. And then I've also done ballets where it's more of like a conceptual thing, but you still sort of approach it like you're telling a story or you're telling a concept. And so I might start somewhere in the middle, never the beginning, because you don't know where you're going to go or begin from. So you start somewhere simple in the middle, and then you kind of expand out. And as you get to know it, it sort of informs itself of what the rest of it is, and it kind of just grows.
Oh, wow.
So usually I sketch out full orchestra. I don't sketch out piano, which a lot of people do. And I just kind of build the sound world. Usually it's a time crunch, so you have to deliver like some kind of recording that they can use for rehearsal. So you sketch it out on the computer, and then from there build out the actual score and parts for live playing and stuff like that.
Wow. I mean, you make it sound so simple. You make it sound so easy, but it seems like you're very passionate about it as well. But you're talking about how, you maybe use the computer or digital tools to possibly help you give them a rough sketch. How has the digital world, and even with introducing AI now into music, kind of helped you at all? Or where do you see the industry going with that?
I mean, it's a big evolving question.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in school, I actually loved the process of having a large piece of score paper and just drawing out the writing it out by hand and pencil. There's something very tactile about that.
Yeah.
But with time crunches and deadlines, using the computer for scoring and just kind of like speeding up the process definitely became a huge part of it. I mean, AI is, I think it's going to be more of an issue with commercial and pop music, where they just need something, and a lot of it's background. I think it's going to be, and I've actually heard some very prominent jazz musicians talk about playing with it and realizing, like, yeah, it sort of sounds kind of okay, but you can tell there's something not right about the melody. It sort of wanders, or, I mean, look, we're at a very early stage in all of that.
Yeah.
I still think, though, that creating true content of meaning is something that has to be done by people. I mean, that's, you know, you can tell when you see something that's not quite authentic or real or with heart in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it depends. Like, will AI write ballets and operas? Probably not. Will they write commercial music? Probably.
Yeah.
Like, will it be as good? You know, it might be more about a budget thing, but it's going to be a huge challenge and a big aesthetic and moral issue about where that's going to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We're just scratching the surface right now.
Yeah.
And these conversations are just the beginning of the
Yeah.
overall. But yeah, I'm sure just what you're using, you're not using AI, but what you're using
Yeah.
digitally to help you compose, I'm sure that saves a lot of time than having to handwrite all the
Yeah,
time.
I mean, like score notation programs and
Yeah.
things like that, because, you know, when you're writing for an orchestra and you have to have parts for every single instrument, that can get very tedious. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that Bach had 16 kids so that he could, you know, they could write out his music for him or something. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some tools. I haven't played with it too much, where you can take like a recording and it can split out the stems for like mixing, like we were talking about a little earlier.
Sure.
That could be helpful. I haven't had to deal with it yet, but like, you know, like if they're tools and you know the bigger process, I think it can be very helpful. But I think it's who's driving the creative
Yeah, you're
energy
so right.
behind it. That's really key.
Yeah, and I think us as humans, I think we will be able to tell.
Yeah.
What has heart, what doesn't have heart. Now, we've been talking a lot about your composing. I want our audience to actually hear you in action. So we actually have a clip right now of the composition that you did at the Historical Grand Theater at Bordeaux in
Oh,
France.
yeah.
The piece is called Just Before Now.
Sure.
Let's check it out.
I mean, incredible. You know, I think a part of, and you know, we were speaking about mixing, and we were talking about layering, and just from a production, a composition perspective, instruments that have, you know, when you're talking about frequencies, low end and high end, and placing them properly so that each instrument isn't lost in itself. And so when I'm listening even to this, everything just really stands out, and it brings me into what we spoke about before, which is matching the, or leading with the sound, how it informs what's going on visually, which I really love. And would you say, I guess your process, would you consider it unorthodox? You mentioned even before, like you kind of start in the middle and then you branch out. Do you just kind of
It's like different for everybody.
just kind of feel it out, right?
I mean, with the orchestration thing, I mean, it's almost like you're mixing acoustically live. Like, there's certain things, like, you know, a trumpet's going to be way louder than a violin. So there's some basic things like, you know, 2 French horns might equal 1 trumpet, or like, you know, you need a string section to play, a whole section to play over a couple of brass or something like that. But you know, it's a always learning, always evolving thing. Like, you know,
Producing, I'm telling, which actually leads me to my next question. So Prohibition Productions. So when you are composing at that level, I mean, does that fall under that umbrella, under your
actually
production company?
totally different. I kind of keep these worlds a little separate. It can be a little confusing. I mean, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But I mean, when I was in music school, I got into swing dancing, and so that was just sort of like a side thing. And then when I went away for grad school, I got an opera fellowship down in Louisville, and I had just started dancing a year before that, and I got there, and there was like very little. So I started kind of my own thing. I started these house parties. I had this like amazing apartment in downtown Louisville, and and then we would teach like a dance lesson, and then we'd have like, jam. I knew all the jazz musicians, even though I was in the classical department, and we'd have like, a swing dance. And then these house parties kind of grew, and so the idea of like having people over and kind of bringing them together, the idea of the old salons of like, Paris in the 20s and stuff like that. And when I moved back to New York, I kept that up as house parties until I couldn't fit everybody in my apartment. And then I started throwing in outside venues, and our first one, 300 people showed up, and and then it sort of went from a side, let's just put on a show and do like a couple a year, and every year it started exponentially growing. And then when the recession in 2012 hit, I realized people didn't want to be in reality, and they escaped into these kind of like jazz world, and so that ended up becoming a real side business. So I was able to stop working for other people and just kind of run the events through Prohibition Productions, and so I would sort of do the events, and then I'd compose in the morning and somehow try and make it all work.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you're doing it all, and you guys do over 300 events a year, is that right?
Last year, we did 321.
Wow. Wow.
Which was far more than we did pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Some of them are small, some of them are big.
Yeah. So do you have a whole team working with you on this?
I mean, it's like on the day-to-day, it's me.
Yeah.
And then I figured out how to kind of like streamline a lot of the operations. But on site and at the events, they'll have people that help with certain things.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot for you doing and stuff. But we actually have a little bit of a clip just to show you one of these events in action. Let's check it out.
Great.
There's a new dance called the new bolero at the Savoy. It's a killer with a new kind of joy. It's taking the time. Night after night, while the Yankees wonder what it's about. All the jitterbugs are beating it out and swinging on down. My, oh my, oh how that band can play. You'll see couples sway.
Don't you just want to vibe to it?
Wow.
What's the energy like when you put on events like these? Because we're not there, and I'm already moving. Z was swaying. What's it like when you're actually there?
It's great. Like there's a lot of people approach events and jazz things differently. I think the way that I like to do it, I like to put people in a room and always have live music. Like my events always will have live music, and I think the kind of jazz that we do is sort of like hot jazz and swing or trad jazz, whatever you want to call it. But we're not. I don't like to present it of like, oh, you need to like this because of the historical blah blah blah. It's more, this is like fun music. It's party music. It's that's what the origins in a lot of way were. So, if you want to dance, you dance. If you want to just listen, if you want to have a drink, if you want to just talk to friends. So it's like our current big event every Wednesday is at Somewhere Nowhere, and we have one tonight. And over the last 18 months, our average attendance is over 300 per night. This last few weeks, we've been between 320 and 420.
Wow.
And it's a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds.
Huh.
And it's the best way to describe it is a throwdown jazz party. Like the band's playing on stage, people are dancing, people are drinking, happy hour, they're mingling. We teach a dance lesson. You don't have to know how to dance, but there's a lot of people, especially like 20-year-olds, that are really curious to try something different that's not like clubbing and nightlife and the usual stuff. And, they get a little dressed up, but they don't have to, and there's no judgment. You come and you hang out and you do what you do. If you're a pro swing dancer, you dance in the corner. If you're not, you take the lesson and you hang out. And it's been really, really fun. And the energy, there's something that really shifted post-pandemic. I think especially with younger people, thinking that, oh, this is not what I thought it was, And there's, like last week we were singing a jazz standard, and the room was packed, and all of us on stage started laughing because there were these group of 20-year-old girls that just had their hands up in the air, and they were like, getting down, and they probably had never been to a jazz club, But it's so that energy that comes from the music. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to put out there.
Yeah.
And let that speak for itself.
Well, I think it is, and it's great that the ages that are coming, 20s and 30s. I love it.
Yeah.
Covering all bases. And I you know, kind of revisiting what we were talking about before. I mean, stuff like that, that's AI could never.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think actually that's a big part of it is the idea of something in person and in real life.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that interaction, just being close with people. You know, I mean, I wanted to mention that the Gotham Jazz Festival is this Sunday, and
Yes.
it's something that, in a way, encapsulates what we do throughout the entire year. So all these 300 events, all the different bands and musicians that we work with, we kind of put one day together where we put them all in one space. And so we have 100 musicians, 17 bands, over 4 floors, 2 ballrooms, 2 lounges, 12 hours long, you know, and you can come, you can dance, you can sit and listen, you can, however you want to do it. You know, the evening is a little bit more of like one of our regular jazz parties, so there's a lot more dancing. And it's going to be a real special event.
Yeah, so it basically you're expanding what you do on Wednesday nights and you're making it a 12-hour event, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, because like throughout the, you know, we work with a lot of different bands throughout the year for different events. Like obviously I have my band, the Hot Toddies, and we do Wednesdays, but I book a lot of bands in other places. Again, same idea. We take this infectious music and we just, you know, put it places. We're not saying, oh, you should like this because, you know, and it works very well. So we get a lot of those bands that we love and just, you know, give everyone 70-minute set, have different rooms, and then in a lot of ways, though, it's like the whole trad jazz community comes together on one day and people, you know, see each other they haven't seen in a while, and they get to, you know, hang out and mingle, and people get gigs out of it, and you know, interact with people and fans and everything.
Oh my gosh,
amazing.
It sounds like so much fun. So much fun. You know what? We may actually do that. We may actually have to do that. And I want to learn more about it because I know there's specific pricing too. If people don't want to go all day, you can do half day.
Absolutely.
I also have a clip to show. But guys, we're going to just take a quick pause. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Then we're going to get back into it about the Jazz Festival, also about the Hot Toddies. We have a lot more to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Patrick.
Wow, this is amazing. We are just talking it up with Patrick, and he is just a man of many talents. As I always like to say, he is a Swiss Army knife. Yes. He has so much going on. And you know, right before we went to commercial, we were just about scratching the surface when we were talking about the Gotham Jazz Festival. So we want to jump right back into that. And so how did this start? Again, this seems like it was a spawn from what you do on Wednesday nights, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Wednesday night is just the idea of a weekly event with hot jazz and dancing and stuff like that. But I've been doing events like that for a while now. I mean, I started Prohibition Productions, like our first events were in 2006. So it's like, it's grown a lot. And the festival originally, its original roots were a little bit smaller, with the idea of like, hey, let's get a bunch of the bands we like together in a small, you know, venue. And then it kind of started growing from there. And then I started working with a wonderful, well-known trumpet player named Bria Skomberg and her partner Molly Ryan, and we sort of combined forces. They have an adult jazz camp, and then we did the festival with professional bands, and then kind of mixed, like they're all-stars and everything like that. So it just kind of kept growing, and but the idea was to keep the format. I mean, it's a festival, so some people really are going to sit and listen, but a lot of my crowd likes to dance. So we would have a dedicated swing dance room, and the bands would still change every 70 minutes or so. And so you can really float between them, and everything's staggered, so you can like get 20 minutes over here of this band. So let's say you want to check out the Hot Sardines, you go there, and then you want to see Bria Skomberg, you go here, or you know, the Eyal Vilner Big Band, or Danny Giannacucci, you know, you know, and like everyone has these amazing backgrounds and talents and stuff like that. You know, Danny Giannacucci's arranged for Lady Gaga, and Catherine Russell used to sing backup for Bowie, you know, but everyone has these like strong jazz roots and elements to it. So it's an amazing, wonderful amount of talent that just floats in those buildings.
Yeah, just bop around. Listen to whatever you want.
Yeah, freestyle it.
Yeah. As you're saying it, I'm smiling like, yes, I'm so into it. I love it. Now, if you guys are also interested, we actually have a quick clip right now showing a past event. So let's check out what you can expect there. I mean,
Unbelievable.
that is so fun. But no, please tell the audience what you were just saying is that was a smaller venue, right?
Yeah,
it
so-
looks big, but you're saying it's smaller than what you guys are doing this weekend.
Well, that video was when we had the festival pre-pandemic at the Players Club.
Okay.
Post-pandemic, we did it at the DTA for the last 2 years, and this year we're at the 3 West Club on 51st Street across from Rockefeller Center. So it's a great location. And we've been doing 600, 800 people, you know, in much bigger spaces. They're about twice the size of Players Club.
Yeah.
So it's really wonderful. I mean, we have, like I said, 100 musicians, 17 bands,
Yeah.
4 stages. You know, 2 of them are ballrooms, so you can dance.
Wow.
Oh my gosh,
You know.
so exciting. We can put the flyer up just once again, so in case you guys are interested, it's taking place this Sunday. And I know it goes from 12 to 12:30 to 12:30. But if you don't want to go, maybe you can't go all day
No,
long. Are you able
definitely.
to buy half-day passes?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so if you want to be hardcore, you can do all 12 hours. But we do divide it into 2 halves. So
Okay.
the first half is 12:30 to 5:30, and the second half is 6:30 to 12:30. And programmatically, the way we sort of organized it is the first half is a little bit more chill. It's a little bit more sitting and listening. You can dance in all the rooms if you want, but we put more chairs out. In the second half, it's more like our other parties, where we still have some chairs in one of the rooms, but you know, we have a lot more space for dancing. It's a little bit more of like a cocktail swing dance kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know, in a pretty nice venue. So it's, you know, a lot of people dress up, but you don't have to, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can do tickets either full day, half day. We have general admission, or you can do a VIP where we have like a special VIP room and a limited open bar, and or you can do a late night thing and come for a discount there. Of course, we have student discounts. So we try and make it really accessible. The price points are very reasonable, and today most jazz festivals don't have jazz. So I don't know.
What?
Yeah,
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but most of them really don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? What
I
kind
think
of
this-
jazz do they have?
I think what they're just saying is festival, but they started as jazz festivals, but to sell more tickets, they'll have like not jazz.
Yeah.
And it's more of like yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They give a variety pack. You guys are giving true jazz,
Yeah.
swing dancing, all
Yeah,
of that.
like we're
Okay.
sort of focusing on jazz that's pre-bebop, but the way that it's being played, some bands are very authentic in how they play it, and some sort of take the heavy influence from early jazz and swing dancing and stuff like that. You know, like my band, we're not recreating the old recordings, but we're very much playing for swing dancers in the style that is very recognizable to like the bands of the swing era. You know, but it definitely feels a little bit more like today.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's still very real and authentic at the same time.
Wow.
It sounds so
Yeah.
exciting. It sounds so exciting, guys. We have the website right below, right here. You can see. You can also see the Instagram page. So if you guys are wanting to get tickets, you guys are going to be in the city on Sunday. Definitely go, and you guys can get info there. All right. Now, Z like to call you a Swiss Army knife. You're doing a jack of all trades, doing a lot of things. Now let's move on to actually talk about the Hot Toddies Jazz Band, because
Yes.
you are actually the band leader on top of putting on
Yes.
festivals and composing music, you know, for little operas and little ballets. No, massive operas, massive ballets. You are also part of the Hot Toddies. Tell us about the Hot Toddies. How
Sure.
were you guys created? Who's in the band? Give us the deets.
Well, it started a couple years before pandemic. When I was working on the jazz festival with Molly and Bria, who had the jazz camp, they were like, hey, can you help us promote this jazz camp? And I was like, well, actually, can I just take it instead of paying you, for, you know, paying me for it? So there I met a couple of musicians, and that kind of was getting back into playing drums for me. And so we left that and started a band, and decided to call it the Hot Toddies. And it really grew, especially sort of during the pandemic. We started doing these recordings, like actually the ones that are on screen. There were pandemic recordings where we were each recording separately, and which was challenging musically to do. And then once that was done, and we started getting more regular gigs again, especially the Wednesdays at Somewhere Nowhere. So we are hitting our 3-year anniversary. Actually, next week is our 3-year anniversary party at Somewhere Nowhere. But starting to play regularly, it really helped inform the band. I mean, my concept was playing for swing dancers, but not just swing dancers, right? So over the time, I've been able to figure out like the people that are really the right chemistry and that vibe together and and have the right energy. So like literally last night finished our latest album, which will be our 4th release, which is called Live from Somewhere Nowhere. It's a live album, and it's coming out next week, and will be on streaming in a few weeks. But that's the band performing live. Like, it's very real. So, I mean, the people that we have have amazing. Like the video earlier that you saw, Hannah Gill. She amazing singer, young singer, but incredible talent. She was with Postmodern Jukebox, which became really well known. We also have Queen Esther, who's more of like a kind of bluesy, sultry Ella kind of singer. Our guitar player, Justin Poindexter, is also a director of education at Jazz Lincoln Center, like amazing guitarist and just knows so much. Our sax player has a Grammy and is just Swiss, amazing, and Alfonso Horn, one of our trumpet players, was in the Broadway show on Louis Armstrong. That just and these people are amazing. So it's hard to get them all together sometimes, And then we have Ian on bass and Jake on trombone, and it's just like this core group. So the live album really captures that, and sort of playing at a busy club like Somewhere Nowhere has been really great because we really figured out how to kind of keep that energy going and. Yeah, you should come check it out.
Yeah, so you guys are playing tonight, right?
Playing tonight.
Playing tonight.
And
All right.
next week is the 3-year anniversary and the album pre-release. So we're going to have the CDs there, and we'll be streaming on Bandcamp. And then June 16th will be the radio ad date, and probably when we release on like Spotify platforms and stuff like that.
Wow.
And vinyl will come up a little later.
There you go.
Wow. And now your recordings, the album, how long did you take a culmination of live recordings to piece together this album?
Yeah, so it was over about 4 months. So we recorded 10 nights every week, and then went through. We play about 30 songs a night. So
30. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because when you're actually playing for dancers, you don't want to play more than 5 minutes. So like 3 to 4 minutes is like ideal. So yeah, they're shorter. It's not like a 15-minute jazz song you get at a jazz club. You don't dance that long. So yeah, we started with all these tracks, and then I just kind of gradually narrowed them down, and that got really challenging because there's interpretations. I tried to keep the set list the same week to week, even though our musicians would sometimes change because everyone's got busy schedules,
Sure.
But there ended up being a few nights that were really something, they're really special moments, and a lot of the tracks come from 4 nights in particular.
Wow. Well, even with that, live performance, there's a quote where it's recording, as a recording artist, you get to perfect a moment, and at live performance, you get to create one. You get to create a moment. And so I would even imagine you even have some of the same songs that you play night over night that are completely different in energy and feel and tone. And so probably trying to whittle that down and then decide, which one you're going to pick was probably pretty
There's actually a couple tunes that were on the album that came out last year called Triple Step, which was a studio recording. And a couple of them are on the live album. And some of them are a little similar, and some of them are really different. I mean, like on the last night of the live recording, we had the 3-horn section, so it was great. We had Alfonso, Linus, and Jake, and they were just wailing. Because I was a little worried before that. I was like, I'm not sure if we have enough material, and this is supposed to be the last night, and everyone just brought it, and it was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, it's so fun when everybody is just on it too. Is there that moment, like when you're, you just know that, they're doing, whoa, this is magic here. What's that feeling like?
Sometimes you don't really notice it until really mixing the album really kind of in there. It's like, oh wow, there are some really special moments happening here. And then it's hard because you have to choose which ones to put out there and not, or we had to cut some amazing stuff because we sped up at the end.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And it's because everyone got really excited, and it just, tempo went up. But.
Wow.
And it kept going and stuff. Well, we actually have one more video because I want to show you guys in action. This was you at the Lincoln Center.
Oh,
Hot Toddies
yes.
performing at the Lincoln Center. Let's check it out.
a train. But if I gotta walk, I'm gonna get down this city. Hey, it's the city, here I come. They got a crazy way of loving me. I wanna give me
Kansas City, I'm coming. I'm coming. Fantastic
Wow.
job there. So tell us a little bit about this performance.
Oh, that was a great, wonderful event. Lincoln Center has a series called Summer for the City, which they're doing this year. And it comes out of something called Midsummer Night's Swing, which they were doing pre-pandemic, which was wonderful. It'd been around for about 20 years, where they just have a free dance in the plaza of Lincoln Center, and everyone would go. And post-pandemic, they've moved into Summer in the City, where they have a lot of different styles of music, but we were lucky enough to do one of the swing nights, so we were able to put together a great band, a little bit bigger than we normally do, and the weather was beautiful. It was really hot, but we had 2,000 people came.
Oh,
and-
2,000.
Yeah,
Woo.
and it was a wonderful, wonderful night.
Oh my goodness.
Really swinging.
Oh, hey,
I see what you did there.
Really
I see
swinging.
what you did there. I love that. Now, also in some of the performances and even some of the clips that we saw for what you guys do on Wednesday night, in addition to the band, I'm looking at there are other performers. There are dancers and things like that. I mean, how do you go about incorporating that into your performances?
Yeah, so on Wednesday, the band plays 3 sets. We play about 3 hours in tuxedos, mind you.
Wow.
And I always bring in other performers to kind of give a little more variety. So we usually have a tap dancer every week, and then we'll also have burlesque dancers sometimes, or other special guests, or swing dancers. But almost every week is a tap dancer. Our regular MC, DeWitt Fleming Jr., was also on the Louis Armstrong musical on Broadway. He'll be there tonight and next week, and he'll MC and tap. And it's a weird phenomenon. There's no rehearsals. So he'll often start just tapping out a tempo, and then like Jake will figure out a song to go with that, all in the span of about 15, 20 seconds, and then just go. And we actually have one of those on the live album that's fantastic.
Oh my goodness.
Love.
And and sometimes we'll do that with dance performers as well. And burlesque, or next week we have a pro swing couple coming to do a demo, and and it's just sort of, but that's the root of the music, is the spontaneous energy, improvisation.
Yes.
So I personally don't like to have music stands on stage and people reading music. There's nothing wrong with it. There's amazing bands that do that, but they do it better than we will, so we do our thing. You know? I think that's the way to think about it.
I love that. Like, even conceptually, just understanding what those feelings are like, where you are just, you're so free to create at that point. I mean, as you were describing that moment to me, it gave me goosebumps, because it's just like when everyone's just in the pocket and you feel this energy, and you're just kind of vibing off of each other, and you're creating something special. You're having so much fun. And this is something
it's actually on the live album. You can hear, I don't know if it's too much, but like the horn section laughing on stage all the time, like between like Alfonso and Jake and Linus, they're clearly having a good time, and like they're doing all these like musical jokes and riffs with each other, and it's really wonderful to hear that. Like when you have that chemistry, it's really, really special.
Amazing.
It goes back to that authenticity, that they're all just having fun, and you want to listen to a fun band playing together, in rhythm,
that's
right?
like, it's like, sure, a wedding band, they don't stop between songs. That's probably better for flow, and maybe we take a little too long in between, but people are joking around and having fun. But I think it's kind of, it's real, and it's you should really check it out.
Yeah, it's the experience. Well, guys, you are doing a lot. Thank you for explaining all of that, promoting all of that. Once again, guys, the Gotham Jazz Fest is happening this Sunday. Make sure you guys go get your tickets, or tonight, see the Hot Toddies.
We're there every
action.
Wednesday.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming here, being on the show. You're doing such incredible things, and we're excited to keep following your work.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have a fun game. You're not going to miss it. We'll be right back.